Now, as thousands of migrants continue to come through Britain's borders and taxpayers foot the £6 million a day bill to house them in hotels, many are asking if those claiming asylum should be allowed to work while waiting for their claims to be processed.
Well, let's hear from former Brexit Party MEP Rupert Lowe, who's in Wiltshire this morning. Good to see you this morning. Is it a bad idea to say, actually, you know, work, add to the economy, pay for your own keep?
Well, good morning, Ellie. Good morning, Stephen. I've been consistently saying that the solution to this is to stop people coming illegally into the country. I think we have about 166,000 asylum applications which are pending at the moment. And we have the treaties. We've watched Australia police her borders successfully. So it is possible. But the problem we've got is that we have, despite the fact we have an 80-seat majority and a sovereign government, we have a government that is unable to actually deliver what the British people need, and that is to stop them coming in the first place. Secondly, if they do get here, to process them quickly, which we're failing to do, which doesn't surprise me because trying to do any business in the UK now, you are hampered by the civil service, who, despite the fact there's been huge growth in numbers, have become extremely inefficient and are incapable of doing anything that basically serves the interests of the people, despite the fact they've got huge pensions and they cost a lot. So once they're here, which is the situation we have now, my view is that without breaching treaties, we have all these various treaties and agreements and the ECHR, we've got all the various, the Equality Act, all the acts that we saw imported here through our time in the EU. What we've got to make sure is we don't create a problem for ourselves by creating a right for people to stay if they work. So that's the first caveat. But in principle, yes, Stephen, I do agree we should be asking them to do some work rather than sort of having a joyride around Portland. They should be doing something which actually benefits the taxpayer who's funding them at the moment. So we fund them to a huge extent. It's very damaging to our local infrastructure. So I think there are 395 hotels being used to house migrants at the moment. They are obviously costing the taxpayer a fortune. And because of the benefits system that we have at the moment, which doesn't encourage British people to work, what we've got a shortage of skills in various areas. One of those areas, obviously, is farming, where people are constantly complaining about a lack of fruit picking. So there are jobs that I think we need done here. And I see absolutely no reason why people who come here legally shouldn't be asked to shoulder some of the work that's needed. But I don't want to create a situation where they then have a right to stay because they've actually done some work. So I think we've got to approach it by looking at the legal situation. But the first thing I'd like is to see nobody coming here illegally. If they do get here illegally, they're processed immediately and sent back to where they've come from, because a lot of these people are not economic migrants. They're just seeking a better life away from Albania or one of the countries that's perfectly capable of providing them with a job if they stay there. So that's my opinion.
The latest figures that we have on processing times is about 20 months in this country. So that processing time is very, very long. And in that time, we pay that hotel bill to the tune of £6 million a day. We also give asylum seekers £45 a week as well. So that is very, very costly for the taxpayer. Many people listening to you would say it would make sense to contribute to our economy. And also, not only is that good for us, but it's good for them as well. It can't be good for them to sit in a hotel mindlessly for 20 months. If you get yourself to work, it's a benefit to them as well.
Well, it isn't a benefit to them, as you say, Ellie. I think, when I was an MEP in the West Midlands, the first thing you'd find is a hotel got populated by illegal immigrants. The hotel got shut. The hotel often sits at the heart of the local community. The next thing is there are lots of people wandering around, as you say, spending money on cigarettes or whatever. And no discussion took place. So I think it's extremely damaging for them to be locked up. the question we have to ask is, why is it taking so long to process these applications? The civil service will tell you that they need more staff. Well, that's patently wrong. The civil service has grown like a weed since COVID. COVID was an absolute godsend for them. They made lots of bad decisions, which personally I think need to be looked at, even though the COVID inquiries cost £40 million so far, I read the other day. No, I think they should be asked to do something constructive. Given that we control our own borders now as a result of Brexit, given that we have a government with an 80-seat majority, we should be finding a solution to this. But the problem, I think, is I feel for Suella Braverman. She, I think, has the right sentiments. But the problem is she's backed up by a civil service who aren't fit for purpose. And
hold on, though, Rupert. Hold on. What about the idea of, and a lot of people would say this, British jobs for British workers? Because there is bound to be some circumstance where someone's going to apply for a job and say, oh, actually, we don't need it. We've got asylum seekers covering this.
No, I think, again, you've got to be careful on that, Stephen. There are tax breaks, which is ridiculous at the moment, for people who come over from abroad and work on farms. So the farmers actually have tax breaks for providing them with accommodation, but we don't need to go into that now. But I don't think there's a danger of taking British jobs. A lot of our people, and I'm doing a lot of research on this, the benefit system is broken. I mean, there are far too many people here on benefits. They can almost self-certify a lot of the time now. And, we complain that we've got shortages. So I think the policy should start with using or providing jobs for areas where we're short in our own economy, and then go from there if we can't get our processing right. So I agree, we don't want to be damaging the interests of British people, but from where I sit, there's a lot of British people who aren't working. And if you look at the number of people who are on benefits and are actually also themselves recipients of a state handout, I don't think there's too much of a danger of taking jobs from English or British people.